you did a fad diet for 90 days and you can't do it again because it's a fad diet. A patron let me know about this video from Jaime French. They said she's like a beauty YouTuber or beauty guru turned comedian, which I like. I'm not making fun of. That's just like, that's an interesting trajectory. But yeah, looking at her channel, it looks like she, makes fun of weird like TikTok trends or drama or whatever. Seems like mostly a lighthearted, fun channel. Anyway, the video is the carnivore diet accidentally changed my life, and it makes me pretty sad. Not for the obvious reasons, promoting eating lots of animals, but sad for her. This video is really the perfect example of how people can be taken advantage of by pseudoscience, by, crazy diet claims and anecdotes. So she has some health issues I guess she's had for a long time. She talks about allergies later in the video.
I had a severe reaction to every single solitary thing on the entire list except for cockroaches, funny enough, except for the animal, funny enough. And when she said that, it hit me. Most of my allergies are to plants, pollens, grasses, weeds, ragweeds, etc. I'm literally allergic to all of it.
But her main concern seems to be weight. She says she's tried to eat more plants. She's even tried vegan and it didn't work for her. And then she saw a bunch of pro-carnivore diet videos, people talking about how much weight they've lost. You can find the same claims for like any diet. You can find so many videos of people saying the same thing about veganism, of people saying the same thing about keto and paleo and what used to be popular, Atkins. Does anyone care about Atkins, the Atkins diet anymore? Intermittent fasting, anything, you will find people saying they lost weight and this is the first time they've been able to lose weight on a diet.
My ears perked up when I found out that people were dropping hundreds upon hundreds of lbs and healing a bunch of autoimmune diseases and stuff by eating only meat.
I get it. I get why that is appealing, and I have certainly myself fallen for crazy diet claims and crazy diets based on anecdotes. I ate a raw vegan diet, a mostly fruit diet, so yeah, I get it. Point is, this is why actual science is done, to find out if certain diets or medicines or whatever are actually effective. And when we do that, we find that there's no like magic bullet. There's no diet that is more effective when it comes to weight loss than any other diet. When they look at low fat, low carb, they basically perform the same. When they look at intermittent fasting versus just restricting calories, they basically perform the same.
So I very first heard about this diet a long time ago on the Joe Rogan podcast. He said he felt incredible on it, the best he's ever felt.
Like literally the best I ever felt all throughout the day was when I was on the carnivore diet.
I know I've said this so many times, but I just love carnivore people and keto people, and they'll talk about how great they feel on these diets for like a few weeks, a few months, maybe even a year or two. And yet when vegans talk about, oh, I've been vegan for 10 years and I feel fine, I'm healthy, they're like, oh, just wait. You're going to be so depleted in 5 more years.
I had my horrific experience with Ozempic. So disappointed that I didn't lose a single ounce of weight on the drug.
Again, the main concern for her seems to be weight loss. She wants to be at a healthier weight, and this is something she's been dealing with for a long time, to the point where she actually tried medical intervention. She actually tried Ozempic, and for that to not work, I can understand then being even more suggestible. She's in the perfect position, I guess, to be persuaded by even something as crazy as a carnivore diet.
And then I stumbled upon Jordan Peterson's video about the carnivore diet. So Jordan Peterson is Michaela Peterson's father. He's also famous for some reason. You guys probably know more than I do.
Oh, to not know about Jordan Peterson. What is that like?
Jordan also explained in his interview that when you are in a state of like deep ketosis, which happens when you're on carnivore, your body's vitamin C needs go way down. I don't understand the science behind it, but that is why people can do this for 10, 20, 30 years and not get scurvy.
Who is doing this for 10, 20, 30 years? I did talk about this in my video on the carnivore diet and why it's dumb and irresponsible. I think that's what I called the video. We do see this with various nutrients. When we get less of certain nutrients or when we change our diets in other ways, it can alter our needs. So it is possible that eating a certain way can lower our vitamin C needs, but we don't really have evidence of this, certainly not enough evidence to say, oh yeah, eat a carnivore diet and you'll get plenty of vitamin C. No. So by eating only meat, you are taking a really, really big risk. Now, scurvy is reversible. So hopefully if someone were having those symptoms, they would be paying attention to that. They would know the scurvy symptoms and start reintroducing vitamin C as soon as possible. But
let me tell you something. The carnivore community is about as diehard as the vegan community.
I can see someone being in the carnivore community and feeling sick and not wanting to admit that they feel sick, right? Because this diet is supposed to solve everything.
Regardless of whether or not you have any interest in trying this diet, you have to admit the entire thing is fascinating.
Look, I have no doubt there are people cutting out every other food and just eating meat and feeling better. Not only losing weight, but feeling better, maybe even curing, skin conditions or whatever they have, seeing improvements there. I have no doubt that's happening. But as I've talked about before, and I think she even says at one point, elimination diet, that is very likely what's going on here. It's not that meat is somehow special and is curing people. It's that they are cutting out whatever foods were affecting them. They were allergic to, were causing some sort of inflammation, whatever. Does that mean you have to be carnivore in order to, help your skin or whatever? No, it means you need to find out whatever foods are causing the issue and eliminate them for a time, right? Typically, elimination diets are not about cutting out foods completely. Sometimes that has to happen, or they need to be limited to a pretty severe degree. But the point of elimination diets is not to live on them indefinitely. And elimination diets done in like a medical setting with the help of professionals, they aren't telling people to eat a carnivore diet. They are cutting out like typical offenders, which does not mean every plant ever. And the weight loss thing, well, you're cutting out like all the delicious foods. Yeah, if you're just eating meat, you're probably not going to be able to eat a whole lot of it and you're going to lose weight. I know I'm sounding really snarky, and that is not towards Jaime at all. She seems like a really nice person, and just watching this whole thing, I just felt nothing but sympathy for her, and I still do. I'm more agitated at the people she's listening to, the Paul Saladinos, this like naturopathic doctor who told her she has adrenal fatigue. Of course. I just made a video about adrenal cocktails. Check that out if you're interested. Those are the people I'm frustrated with. And that's not even really fair, because very likely they aren't doing this knowing the information they're providing is incorrect. They probably think they're helping people. But it feels better to be mad at someone. Can't I just be mad at someone, please?
The strangest and most fascinating part about all of this to me was that many of these like diehard carnivores are medical professionals or just straight up doctors. So some of the popular ones are Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Elizabeth Bright, who I have had 2 appointments with now. She's a very smart lady.
Elizabeth Bright, that's the doctor, and I looked her up. She's a naturopath, and I actually found that from other carnivore people, from a carnivore Reddit. You have these pro-carnivore people saying she's a quack and not a real doctor, and she makes the movement look less legit, and also that she looks bad, so she's probably cheating.
Dr. Boz and Dr. Paul Saladino.
Ah, yes, the guy who is promoting making your own sunscreen at home, just mixing it up in a bowl. Oh, sure, that'll get everything distributed properly. I shouldn't even laugh at that. That is so fucking dangerous. And that's what sucks, right? You can't just rely on medical professionals. You can't just rely on MD.
I could find another doctor or medical professional who would have an equal amount of evidence to support plant-based lifestyle and to say why meat is bad. In fact, I've seen them. Like, think about all of the professionals in the Food Matters documentary, and maybe is it Forks Over Knives? Or that lady, Charlotte Gerson, who like cures people's cancer at her clinic with a plant-based diet.
No, again, this is nothing towards her, but this is why all of this is so frustrating. There are so many experts who are just wrong. Gerson therapy is not, it is a scam. And yes, there are vegan doctors, and some of them are wrong. I just talked about, well, he's not vegan, but he promotes a plant-forward diet, and he says some really stupid shit about protein that is not evidence-based. It is not consensus. I've talked about Neil Barnard and others who promote low-fat vegan diets, and that is not good. Again, not evidence-based, not consensus. It's so frustrating that we can't just rely on experts. We can't rely on someone with MD after their name or RD, because there are always going to be the Paul Saladinos. There are always going to be the Neil Barnards, the ones who have chosen a particular path for whatever reason. They have latched on to a particular diet, supplement, plan, whatever. That's what they're going to promote, regardless what the evidence says. Anyway, for those interested, I highly, highly, highly recommend this very short post by Stefan Guillenet. I've promoted him numerous times. He has a fantastic book about weight loss and why weight loss is so hard. Anyway, he has this post on experts, kind of what to look for when listening to people, when choosing experts. And one of the things is, look, if they are die hard on a certain path, a certain diet or whatever, be very skeptical. If they think you can just make effective sunscreen at home, be very skeptical.
You know what? I'm going to try this. I don't think I'm going to die. And the results hopefully will speak for themselves. I've done the plant-based vegan diet. So this polar opposite diet could either make me feel as bad as I did as a vegan or way better.
Carnivore is you're eating basically one type of food. And more importantly, you are cutting out macronutrients. Vegan is not about cutting out macronutrients. You are still getting carbs. You are still getting fat. You are still getting protein, hopefully a good amount of protein. Obviously, there are vegans who don't really prioritize it and probably don't get enough for like optimal health, but that's not what vegan is about, right? It's about eliminating animal products and eating a balanced diet just from plants. A carnivore diet is about eliminating carbs. And so there are different ways to eat a vegan diet, right? There are lots of different ways. A carnivore diet, not so much, just it's basically one. Low fat, high carb vegan, very different from how I eat now. How I used to eat on a mostly fruit diet, very, very, very different from how I eat now, even though they're both vegan diets. So when she says she ate vegan, she ate plant-based, who knows what that means? So then she gets into the full 90 days. She did a carnivore diet. Fad diet 101. Like, why not to do fad diets? That's the entire thing. I feel so bad for her that she doesn't see that. When she starts the diet, she feels amazing. She feels so full. She's only able to eat like 1,300 calories a day. So of course she loses weight, which helps her feel better, right? Helps her keep going. Inevitably, the diet gets harder to stick to. She doesn't feel good anymore. This is what happens. Literally any fad diet, you ask anyone who has tried to, even if it's just like severely restrict their calories, that's what happens. You start out really great because you're excited. You know this time it's going to work and you're going to lose all the weight and it's going to be amazing. You're going to fit into your swimsuit or whatever. And you see the change on the scale. You see all that weight, all that water weight coming off, and it just keeps you going. But eventually you got to stop. Eventually it's too restrictive. Eventually you're really fucking hungry because you've only been eating 1,300 calories a day. She doesn't see it this way. She basically blames it all on dairy.
After 8 days, incorporated 2 tablespoons of heavy cream, and it didn't seem to affect me negatively. Boy, was I wrong. I had no idea what was coming.
To be fair, she says that like 4 other doctors, I think she says actual doctors.
I've gotten pulled off dairy by legitimate doctors like 4 times in my life.
It's like even she knows, the Paul Saladinos of the world. A little sketchy maybe. But anyway, she says doctors have told her to give up dairy in the past, and obviously lots of people do have legitimate issues with dairy, but yeah, that's what she latches onto, that she incorporated dairy. She put some A1 steak sauce on steak and then that caused issues. It's always like these little things that just made her feel terrible again. They brought back her cough, they brought back her skin issues like the next day.
July 9th, I had the those Starbucks like egg bites, the little sous vide egg bites, which to me are carnivore, okay? The bacon Gruyere ones, it's bacon, cheese, eggs. I woke up the next day, all my skin flakes were back. Looked it up online and they have cornstarch and a whole bunch of like carbs and stuff in them.
Again, I'm so sympathetic and I understand why she wants to see it that way, because it means that there's an answer, right? She just needs to go back on the carnivore diet and stick with it and everything will be fine. She'll lose the weight and keep it off. Her skin issues will go away for good. Her breathing allergy issues will go away for good. That's a much better outcome than you did a fad diet for 90 days and you can't do it again because it's a fad diet. No one is able to stick to these diets forever because they're bad. They're too restrictive. They're unhealthy. She even says that she's done keto numerous times in the past and she has the same experience where she does it for, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever and feels great. And then she doesn't.
I'm literally just realizing it like right now. That first week of feeling so good and satisfying and being like, this is the diet for me. And I've been chasing that ever since.
The number of times after a binge, I would start to restrict and I would feel amazing for those first few days. So great. Number one, it was easy because I'd eaten like thousands of calories the night before on a binge. So it was really easy to only eat like a few hundred calories the next day, right? So I was so full. But even several days after that, like I was just so pumped to be super healthy and eating all this fruit and lettuce and whatnot. And yeah, it never lasted because it can't last. But man, did I try.
Look how terrible I felt at the end of this night. Second day in a row where I'm fighting to stay awake despite having slept through the night. All my muscles are burning, even holding my phone right now. Bit concerned. Hope it's not related to the NyQuil I had last night, or maybe the cheese, or maybe I'm dehydrated. It's the cheese, Jamie! It's the cheese!
Or it's the NyQuil. That's literally how NyQuil affects me. I would always wonder as a kid when I would take NyQuil at night and I would go to school, why I would still feel so groggy and terrible by like 12 p.m. What the hell? Well, then when I grew up and got pregnant and was having trouble sleeping, I took Unisom, like many of us do. And the same thing happened. I felt groggy the next day, like 2 p.m. What's going on? Look up the ingredient. Oh my God, it's the same shit that's in NyQuil. Oh my God. I ended up cutting the pill down to a quarter. That was the only way I could take it. And it still just knocked me out. It was crazy.
We're just obsessed with carbs right now. Why are we the way that we are? I know that a lot of you are going to say, you guys can't get back on the wagon because the diet's too restrictive. But it genuinely did not feel restrictive to me in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning, but even in the early days where she talks about how great she felt, she included that note where she says she hasn't been sleeping well.
Haven't slept great since starting this diet, mostly because I have to get up and pee a river, which I never had to do before.
So even then, it doesn't seem like she was feeling amazing. So it's kind of unreliable narrator, maybe, which is common with this kind of stuff. She's not promoting a carnivore diet, making money off of it or anything, right? But clearly she wants it to be the thing that helps her. And so for her own sake, kind of, she is misremembering things and remembering the diet as so terrific while she was on it, right? And the only time she had problems was when she introduced like a little bit of heavy cream or some A1 steak sauce. And if she could just get back on the diet, which she can because, yeah, it's restrictive, but they didn't feel like it was restricted, even though she kept eating other foods. If it's not restrictive, why would she do that? If she can just get back on the diet, then everything will be great. She talks about, again, in those first few days, how amazing she felt, but also she didn't because she had, what did she say, burning diarrhea, keto flu, but even different, like worse than keto flu. And she explains it as her body adjusting to eating that way.
Apparently this is just from your gut microbiome, like readjusting to the new diet.
But then when she eats a pickle, it's not that, oh, her body has to adjust to eating plants again. It's that the pickle is bad for her.
I ended up having some sort of reaction to every single plant that I incorporated.
Just putting that out there.
Turns out the plants that existed thousands of years ago are not quite the same as they are now. So you can very easily Google, like, what did an actual avocado used to look like before it was genetically modified, and they are quite different.
So first she's saying genetically modified. That's not correct. I think what she means is selective breeding. We have selectively bred avocados to be the way they are, to have a lot more flesh, to be super delicious. But the funny thing is, the same can be applied to the meats she's eating. It's not like our ancestors were eating the types of cows we're eating. It's not like our ancestors were eating grain-fed cow and sticks of butter.
So between everything being genetically modified these days, contaminated, I just watched a Netflix documentary called Poisoned, I think, and they basically said that most of the E. coli outbreaks that happen in the world come from the lettuce, not from the meat.
That's not what they say at all. Number one, most salmonella cases are still from eating meat and also from having like backyard hens touching and kissing chickens and ducks. And then the cases that come from lettuce or cantaloupe or whatever, it's still from the meat. It's still from animal agriculture. The salmonella ends up on those foods, but it doesn't originate with those foods.
So around Picklegate, meaning mid-July, is when my weight loss completely stopped. Like, it was at a downward trend, and then it was wiggling a little bit, and then it just hit a wall, and it never resumed, unfortunately.
So then we get to Dr. Bright. Jaime talks to her, what's going on with me? Bright tells her she has severe hypothyroidism. So it turns out Jaime had her thyroid removed, I don't know if total or partial, years prior, and her doctors say that her blood work's good. I don't know if she's on medications, right? A common complication of that or a common result of having your thyroid removed is hypothyroidism.
And I kind of knew that I was hypothyroid, right? Because I had my thyroid removed in 2009 because of thyroid cancer. But I thought that that was the day that my hypothyroidism started. But what she told me based on my entire history is that this has actually been a lifelong problem dating all the way back to when I was in my mother's womb, and was most likely caused because my mom was hypothyroid.
Family history is a risk factor for hypothyroidism, but how this doctor could possibly know that Jaime had an underactive thyroid in the womb. But this is what she does. I specialize in thyroid and adrenal function. And what do you know? What did she discover about Jaime? That she has an underactive thyroid and adrenal fatigue. So not a credible expert. In other words, definitely one of those people who have an answer for everything, right? And the answer is thyroid, adrenal function. And it just sucks. I feel so bad for Jaime. She's obviously having issues. The dry skin and the skin flaking and fatigue and all of that. It sucks. And to be told by your doctors, well, your blood work's fine. I mean, this happens over and over again, right? Unfortunately, for something like this, her symptoms, they're just so non-specific. A multitude of things could cause weight gain. A multitude of things could cause fatigue. A multitude of things could cause dry skin. And to be fair to doctors, they don't have the time or the energy to go through every single condition on the list. I just watched a short from, what's he called? Dr. Mike, where I think they call it punting, right? Where a doctor just doesn't want to deal with all of the symptoms and trying to narrow down, what could possibly be wrong. So they just send them to another physician. Obviously not defending that, but I understand doctors saying, well, the blood work's fine. So what do you want me to do? And so, of course, Jaime and others, they're just going to go, okay, I guess I just deal with this. No, they're probably going to turn to alt med. And man, they have all the answers, don't they? This is a whole thing among the quacks, among the alt med community, that mainstream medicine is totally wrong about hypo and hyperthyroidism, and that they don't test properly for these conditions. And there are even doctors whose whole thing is, yeah, you have thyroid issues, and they sell these expensive supplements, right, to fix it.
She also did a salivary cortisol test on me, which showed that I had adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout.
This is exactly what Jaime wanted to hear, right? She wanted to hear that there's a reason the carnivore diet isn't working. And the reason is not that it's a fad diet. So of course it's not working for you. Of course you're not going to keep losing weight and feeling fine eating just meat and butter. No. It's got to be something with you. There's got to be something else. Oh, it's your thyroid.
I have a lot of stuff that I have to deal with and heal before I can hope to lose body fat from this diet or from any diet or from Ozempic. It also explains why Ozempic didn't work.
While hypothyroidism is associated with weight gain, it's not associated with a lot of weight gain. It's like a few extra pounds from, I think, salt and water retention. It doesn't change thermodynamics. It doesn't mean that if you eat less calories, you're not going to lose weight. You will still lose weight. What likely happened is that she could eat the 1,300 calories a day for a little while, but not forever. And so eventually, even on the carnivore diet, she started eating more calories. She started eating more food because she was hungry.
I think carnivore works well for some people, for certain specific people. But there are thousands of people all over the world who have had equally incredible results and health benefits from eating a plant-based diet.
Anyway, that was the video. Why fad diets don't work. 101. And I hope she seeks out a qualified professional who can help her do an elimination diet, because it could be that she is having acute reactions to, maybe it's the tomato in the A1 steak sauce. Hopefully a professional can help her figure out what foods are triggering her. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. So glad you're here. For those of you interested in eating the opposite of a carnivore diet, a vegan diet, I do have a whole playlist, like new to veganism, I think I called it. Thank you so much to my patrons, patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. I do post 2 exclusive videos there a month for $5 plus patrons. I do one vlog style thing and then one controversial video that is unrelated to veganism, so that's fun. Oh, and like the video if you did, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks again. Bye.
Yesterday, I had the best spaghetti that I have had in many, many years, thanks in large part to today's sponsor, HelloFresh.
This is so weird. It's a video. It's like basically an anti-carbs video. It's sponsored by a meal kit company, like not pro carnivore, obviously. Weird. I'm gonna scoot this over a little more. And no, it's not real, guys. You think I would have a bunch of dirt just sitting right next to me? No, I don't want you in here. Why are you like falling? You're not even good at climbing. I feel like I'd be putting you out of your misery. I'm joking. Fuck, it just keeps trying to climb and then falling and trying to climb again and then falling. It's so sad. Why am I scared of this thing? Till the thing gets on the ceiling. I'm not gonna be scared.